The studio lights were brighter than usual that evening, reflecting off the polished desk of the late-night set as the audience settled into an excited buzz. It was one of those shows everyone talked about the next morning, the kind where a casual conversation could turn into a viral moment within minutes. Jennifer Aniston sat comfortably in the guest chair, dressed in a simple, elegant outfit that made her presence feel effortless. Years in Hollywood had taught her how to handle interviews with grace, humor, and control. She smiled at the audience, waved gently, and exchanged the kind of polite warmth that made her instantly likable. Across from her, Stephen Colbert leaned in with his familiar sharp wit, ready to guide the conversation. The applause faded, the cameras adjusted, and the moment began with light jokes about her latest projects and nostalgic memories from her early career. The audience laughed easily. Everything felt smooth, predictable, safe. But beneath that surface, something subtle was shifting. It started when Colbert brought up a recent rumor circulating online about Jennifer's approach to fame and her decision to stay, more private in recent years. His tone was playful at first, teasing even, but there was a slight edge in the phrasing that changed the rhythm of the room. Jennifer's smile didn't disappear, but it softened. She answered calmly, explaining that privacy was not distance but balance. That being in the public eye didn't mean surrendering every part of one's life. The audience applauded lightly, appreciating her thoughtful response. Colbert nodded, but instead of moving on, he leaned further into the topic. The questions became more pointed, less about her work and more about her personal boundaries. The humor remained, but it was sharper now, like a blade wrapped in velvet. Jennifer adjusted in her seat. Still composed, still smiling, but her eyes had changed. There was a quiet alertness there now, the kind that appears when someone realizes the conversation is no longer what they agreed to step into. The audience could sense it too. Laughter became uncertain, scattered. Colbert, sensing momentum, pushed further, bringing up the idea of celebrity responsibility and public transparency. He framed it as a cultural discussion. But the examples felt increasingly personal, circling closer to Jennifer herself in a way that made the atmosphere tighten. Jennifer responded with restraint. She clarified her position again, carefully, choosing words that wouldn't escalate anything. She had done this countless times before, redirect, soften, smile. But the questions kept coming. At one point, she paused slightly longer than usual before answering. That silence, though brief, changed everything. It wasn't dramatic, but it was noticeable. The kind of pause that signals thought, discomfort, and decision forming at once. Her tone when she spoke again was still polite but firmer.
She said that there was a difference between discussion and intrusion, between curiosity and assumption. The audience grew quieter. Even the laughter had faded completely now. Colbert attempted to lighten the moment with a joke, but it didn't land the way he expected. The energy in the room had already shifted into something more fragile. Jennifer's expression remained controlled, but her posture straightened. She was no longer leaning into the conversation. She was holding her ground. The exchange continued for a few more sentences, but it was clear to everyone watching that something had broken in the rhythm, not loudly, not explosively, but quietly, like a thread pulled too tight, finally beginning to fray. Then came the moment that changed the entire broadcast. After another question that revisited the same sensitive angle, Jennifer stopped smiling completely. She looked at Colbert directly, not with anger, but with a calm finality that made the room feel suddenly much smaller. She said in a steady voice that she had answered as much as she was willing to answer on the subject. There was a pause. Colbert tried to respond, perhaps to steer it back, perhaps to recover the tone, but Jennifer gently placed her hand on the armrest of her chair and began to stand. The audience reacted immediately, confused murmurs, gasps, the rustle of movement spreading through the studio like a wave. The cameras hesitated for a fraction of a second, unsure whether to continue filming or cut. Jennifer offered a brief, polite smile, not the warm Hollywood smile from the beginning, but something smaller, more reserved. A gesture that acknowledged the situation without inviting further conversation. She thanked the host for the invitation. And then she walked. Not dramatically, not angrily, just decisively. Her heels clicked softly against the studio floor as she moved past the edge of the set, past the glow of the lights, and out of frame. The audience remained stunned, unsure whether to applaud or remain silent. Some clapped hesitantly, others simply watched. Colbert remained seated for a moment, visibly processing the unexpected turn. He attempted a light remark to ease the tension. But the atmosphere had already changed. The energy that once filled the studio with laughter now felt heavier, more uncertain. Behind the scenes, production staff moved quickly, adjusting cameras and preparing for a commercial break. The moment had already escaped the controlled rhythm of live television. Backstage, Jennifer walked with calm steps, guided by a producer who quietly checked if she was okay. She nodded politely, her expression composed, but her silence spoke more than words. It wasn't anger that defined her exit, it was resolution. She had reached a line and chosen not to cross it further. Inside the studio, the show continued after a break, as live television always does. The segment was reframed, softened, redirected into safer territory. But everyone present knew that the real story of the night had already happened. And within minutes, clips of the exchange began circulating online, each replay dissected, analyzed, and interpreted from every angle imaginable. Some called it a misunderstanding. Others called it a boundary moment. Some praised her composure, others debated the tone of the questions. But beyond the noise, what remained clear was simple. A moment of control had shifted hands, and a guest had chosen to leave, rather, than continue a conversation that no longer felt right. In the quiet aftermath, long after the cameras stopped rolling and the audience had gone home, the studio reset itself for the next recording. Lights dimmed, chairs were repositioned, scripts rewritten. But that night lingered, because sometimes, in the middle of entertainment, something unexpectedly human happens. A line is felt, a boundary is drawn, and silence becomes louder than any applause.